www.offthecorner.net. You're watching the Fact Project, and FACT, of course, is an acronym that stands for Fundamental African Centered Thought. The goal here on the Fact Project is to convey some facts and some information to members of our community. Today is the Agyei Tyehimba edition of the Fact Project, and we have Brother Agyei Tyehimba joining us live. Peace, Brother Agyei. Thank you for joining us today, brother.
Peace, Brother Ra. Always an honor to be here, man.
Yeah, and we always appreciate your insight and your input and your analysis. So we're always happy to have you, because I know at this point I don't even have to prepare and take notes. I could just ask questions and we could just wing it. It doesn't even have to be that structured, you know. Mm-hmm. But either way, we still coming off of the news of losing the great Queen Mother Assata Shakur. Now, I know you did something live about this. I'm just wondering, what are your reflections now on the life of Queen Mother Assata Shakur after the fact?
Yeah, man, I was doing something on the computer, and that just came up. And I was like, hell no. And I researched. I said, oh man, and it's like you can hear the news of people's death, and they occupy different real estate in your brain. So certain entertainers who I've never met, Muhammad Ali, when he died, I was crushed because of what he represented as a kid to me. Other than my father, he was like that dude, you know? So him, believe it or not, the brother that played Theo, Malcolm Jamal Warner, meant something to me in high school and in college. He was a decent dude. He wasn't getting in trouble, wasn't bothering nobody. You know, a lot of the brothers could relate to him. And then when Assata, man, that hurt, bro. That was like my auntie died. I never met Assata. I met her through her work, her autobiography, Assata. And what she meant to me was kind of like your auntie that's down by law, as we say back in the day.
Right.
Black to the bone. And that's your auntie. And she's spoon-feeding you that wisdom and that consciousness. And it represented, just like when my Jegna Dr. James Turner died, just like when Jegna Khalid Muhammad died. These are people, when they die, it's like an era is dying. And that is the baby boomers, people born right after World War II, sometime around 45, 47-ish, who were our main Jegnas. Those are the people that middle-aged brothers and sisters looked up to. When we were 20, 15, those are the people who were then middle-aged that we were looking to. So when you seeing these people die, man, it's like, wow, that's my people. That's my elders, my family. You know, I did a live, bro. I broke down boo-hoo crying on that live. Wow. So yeah, she meant a lot to me. She and the good news is she lived to be almost 80 years old, 78 years old. And the white man was trying to destroy that woman.
Yeah.
Falsely blamed her for killing some state trooper in the New Jersey Turnpike. She couldn't have killed that trooper. All that came out. The hand that she shot, her shooting hand, the hand that she used, that clavicle was broken by a shot from the police. When your clavicle is broken, you can't even raise your arm.
Right.
You can't raise your arm at all. No gun residue in her hand, no gun residue in her clothing. So we know that's a lie. But they gave her life. And thankfully, we had a Black Liberation Army in existence that liberated her from that prison. She stayed in the States for about probably 4 or 5 years underground. Imagine being in the country of your birth, at least, and you got to be underground. That means she's wearing disguises. She ain't going out certain times. She has to depend on a small cadre of people to give her information, to make sure nobody tells on her. And then she goes to Cuba.
Oh, yeah.
So at least she got to live her life, to be a senior citizen, man, and to be free. You know, so that's the good part of it. She means a lot to a lot of us. And she also was humane. She wasn't one of the rigid, dogmatic nationalist Pan-Africanists. She dealt with race, class, and gender. And she reminded us, we can't just change the system. We have to change ourselves. So to me, she takes a special place because she brings some discussions that that are often in the background. She dealt with the sexism. She dealt with the, So I really hold her in high esteem.
Yeah, that of generation born in the late 1940s, that became the Black Power generation. And so when you see those people starting to make their transition, it's like, wow, you feel like, I don't even know, it's kind of hard to explain, but you feel like time is continuing to march on and you're starting to lose some of these people. I had somebody on in the chat last week that talked about, because I did a piece on the side of last week, and the response was very positive. But I had somebody in the chat say that her autobiography should be read alongside Malcolm X's autobiography because you're getting the male revolutionary perspective from the time, and then you're getting the female revolutionary perspective from that kind of Black Power generation time. What are your thoughts on this idea that you should read both of those books as like a concept of duality, yin and yang type of thing?
Well, in the live I did, man, mad over 1,000 people saw that. And they sharing it. I don't know if they sharing to say, look at this brother talking on tough and he crying. They may have been sharing it for that reason.
Right.
But the point I made was that it is right up there with Malcolm's autobiography. These are two people I never physically met or spoke to. That's the thing I said. Malcolm was killed for 3 years before I was born, first of all. Sada was alive, but I couldn't go to Cuba. So I never saw her, but it's right up there with his. And here's the other thing from a historian's point of view is that Malcolm was the key theorist. He was like our Black liberation theorist. He didn't quite. He had the OAU, but it wasn't around for more than a year and a half before he was assassinated. So a lot of his theory he didn't get to actualize.
Right.
Asada is a cub of Malcolm. Asada gets to join an organization called the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army that are expressions on the ground of what Malcolm was talking about that we had to do, right? So they took up arms and they repudiated cops guilty of killing Black people, and they had this kind of a revolutionary nationalist and almost and kind of an internationalist point of view, right? So she represents something when we get on all the stuff we're not doing right. One thing this shows is that this is an example of a brother who laid down ideas, and of course Malcolm was building on other people who laid down those ideas, and now Asada represents that group of people that was listening to Malcolm. The SNCC students, all the activists listening to Malcolm, who then were able to actually operationalize what he said. So if you look at it that way, that's kind of hot. That's very encouraging.
Yeah,
Malcolm didn't die in vain. His ideas, resurfaced. And so that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, in my perspective, Malcolm X is obviously known for saying by any means necessary. That generation that came subsequent to him, that was the by any means necessary generation. The Black Panther Party, breaking people out of prison, feeding children, taking elders and seniors to medical appointments. Like that Black Power generation was the by any means necessary generation. I think that by any means necessary kind of thought is waned a little bit, because a lot of us, I think, are trying to be more assimilationists as opposed to getting freedom by any means necessary. But you mentioned the Black Liberation Army. Now, PBS and the way history tells the story, they'll always tell you about the Black Panther Party, but they'll never tell you about the Black Liberation Army, which was a faction that broke off of the Black Panther Party. What can you tell us about the Black Liberation Army?
Well, the Black Liberation Army was kind of a confederation of various Pan-African nationalist, revolutionary nationalist organizations. So the Panthers made up a large part, but you also had some RNA, some RAM members. There were other members in it. But the key was that they were an underground organization. You don't hear this a lot because, there's another story. But it was an underground organization. So Malcolm had the OAU. His idea was that RAM, the Revolutionary Action Movement, which came before the OAU, would be the underground of the OAU, right? This means they're engaged in activities we don't talk about. They're engaged in activities that are hush-hush. They engage in activities that might not be legal according to the system or the powers that be. And so the key thing that they did was to provide a tangible form of black resistance to address the killing of black people by police officers with impunity, right? So that's their main thing. I don't want to get too much into that, but I would say I think I laid down the basics for it. They shot back, and I think you should look that up. People watching this should look up Black Liberation Army. You got a few people that talk about it. Brother Daruba bin Wahad, Baba Daruba bin Wahad is one of the co-founders. You'll find him talking about it at Harlem Liberation School broadcast and another broadcast, Black Liberation Media with Jared Ball. And you'll also find a brother, I forget his formal full name, but they called him Blood. He passed, but he talks a lot about the Black Liberation Army. So there's definitely some stuff out there. And I want to say this, Assata Shakur, to her credit, in her autobiography, she does not talk about how she was liberated out of prison.
I noticed that.
She does
I
not.
noticed that.
She doesn't give that up because she was smart enough to know.
Right.
Unfortunately, this hurts me to say this, but sometimes our enemies read more about our history than we do, because they understand that they got to study us in order to defeat us. So she knew that white police people, intelligence agencies would be all up in her book, trying to find some answers, trying to get some clarity on how the BLA moved. And so she deliberately omitted certain information, knowing that the enemy's going to get his hands on this book and we don't want him to know. So it's kind of like what this says to us, family, is we got to have some creativity. We have to be innovative thinkers. We got to connect the dots. She's not going to write a manual. This is how I broke out of jail. So she's depending on what? Our intelligence and our adaptability to be able to figure out how they did certain things. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, when I read the book for the first time, it was back in the 90s. I was reading because I was eagerly wanting to see how this was done. And then it gets to a certain point, and then the chapter ends, and you think the next chapter she's going to go into detail, and the next chapter she's in Cuba. So that piece is missing, right? Now, I'm learning now how it was done with the help of the Black Liberation Army. And here's the thing, and no one has mentioned this, Brother Agyei. Public Enemy did a record called Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos, where Chuck D gets arrested and goes to prison for refusing the draft. And they broke him out of jail, very similar to the way Assata Shakur was broken out of prison. If you know the story, you could connect the dots and go back now and listen to Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos. Same kind of scenario. So I think it's amazing that Public Enemy did this back in the late 80s. And I'm just starting to connect the dots now because I'm starting to learn more details on how certain things were done. And they did a whole song about it. Of course, he made himself the main character, but they did a whole song about it. Do you remember this record, Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos? It was on the second album.
I do. I don't remember the lyrics though, man. I had a lot, man. At that time, I was knee deep in the struggle. I had a lot going on, man.
It's the record that begins with him saying, "I got a letter from the government the other day."
The other day. Yeah.
Go back and listen to that and think of Assata Shakur. That's the same kind of scenario. They just did it on record. So I think that's amazing that Chuck D was so far ahead, at that point to do a record like that. You did first of all, I want to encourage everybody to go to Black Liberation School on YouTube. That channel again is Black Liberation School on YouTube.
That's Harlem Liberation School.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm saying it wrong. Forgive me.
That's okay.
Harlem, see, I'm thinking of the other channel.
Yeah.
Harlem Liberation School on YouTube. Forgive me. That channel again is Harlem Liberation School on YouTube. I would definitely advise everybody go there, watch the videos, subscribe to the channel. But Brother Agyei, you did a video 4 days ago. It was on a memorandum that was put out by the psychopath in the White House. It's called "Is Trump's New Memo Trying to Silence and Intimidate Activists and Critics?" So first of all, what is the title of this memorandum that you're referencing in this video?
Yeah, so it's called National Security Presidential Memorandum 7. you can abbreviate it with the acronym. It's NSPM-7. Yeah.
So say it again. I'm gonna put that in the chat.
National Security Presidential Memorandum 7. If
Okay.
you want, I can copy it and post it in the chat message if you want.
I'm just putting it. Oh, you could do that. You could do that. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
just
hold
putting
on.
that in the chat now myself, so people can go there and
Hold on one sec.
yeah,
I have
we're
it
putting
right
that in
there.
we're putting that in the chat now, so people can go and see that.
And I put the link to our video on it too.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay, and so what can you tell us about this memorandum that it seems like you're saying basically criminalizing dissent and criminalizing resistance to systemic white supremacy? What can you tell us about what's in the memorandum?
Basically, it's first of all, a lot of people haven't heard of this. That's the first thing I want. I want that to sit in, let that marinate. You heard a lot of stuff going on in the past 2 weeks. You didn't hear about that, and that came out September 25th recently, and there's a reason you didn't hear about it. Basically, the memo, the concerns on my part are that the memo may grant the government increased ability to label certain speech or activism as threats to national security. Uh, this be able to label people as domestic terrorists and thereby justify increasing surveillance on individuals and organizations and newsletters, or to suppress people's legal rights, or to suppress people's right to protest or to dissent with the government. And obviously it has implications for black and so-called people of color or marginalized communities, because you know all the things that they raise. We're talking to people who have critiques of Christianity, who have critiques of traditional American values, who have extreme views on race and gender. Well, we know he's talking about us, man.
Yeah.
He's talking about us. We're the people who are raising the issues of racism and gender. We're the people that are anti-imperialists and anti-capitalists and anti-white supremacists. So on the basis of his very loose definition of what he classifies as domestic terrorists, people who ain't making bombs, ain't doing no mass shootings. I want y'all to listen to what I'm saying. People who aren't doing school shootings, who aren't blowing up buildings, who aren't really domestic terrorists. We're just people that have a critique of the government, and we have the constitutional right to do so. But what he's doing is painting it with such a broad brush, Brother Ra, that people like me and you, now become domestic terrorists, and now are prone to have phones surveyed and shows surveyed. He's talking about he's doing a lot of stuff, talking about shutting down nonprofits that he deems to be helping domestic terrorists. He's going to be looking at people's funding sources, the IRS. He's putting IRS on organizations and people. He's weaponizing the federal government to attack and isolate, punish, and suppress those of us who have valid political critiques. Now, if you're going out here talking about blowing something up or something like that, hey, I understand. Whatever my political views are, the government will have a responsibility to stop that. But if you're talking about we're going to organize and protest against police brutality, we're going to organize against these cable stations that are showing these backwards, ugly depictions of black people, and now we're domestic terrorists. That's wrong. That's unethical and unconstitutional. And that's what this memo is trying to set up, a scenario where they can do that and get away with it.
Now, is this a pushback to the George Floyd protest that we saw 5 years ago, where the world came out and basically put a spotlight on police brutality? You think this is a response to those kind of demonstrations?
I think it is, and in a larger sense, Brother Ra, I think it's So Trump is the face of a way of thinking, a way of life, a culture. He's the face of it. But he has a team. He got intellectuals, legal representatives, economic people who I'm sure in his ear and who are wise enough to know that his very hostile repressive policies are going to result in increased activism. Obviously, the more that you repress people, the more those people are going to fight back. The more you're going to see resistance. So what they're trying to do is get ahead of it, right? They're trying to get ahead of that. So let's look at what Trump's done. He's already got all these different universities. He's going after the universities. A lot of them are Ivy League, some are not, but he's going after them and saying, you guys get X amount of millions of dollars of federal funding. That means that he's, in some respect, is in charge of that funding as the executive officer, right, of the country. So he's saying, if you don't do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, we're taking your funding. We're going to freeze it. He did it to Columbia. He got Columbia University to allow outsiders to run the African and Middle Eastern Studies Department. This is ridiculous. Nobody's talking about that. He got Columbia University to create a special security squad with increased powers to detain people and kick people off campus. Nobody's talking about that. And the way he did it was by saying you got about 200 something million and possibly $1 billion coming from us. And if Columbia University doesn't get the money, Brother Rod, they got to fire professors. You got people there that's been doing these studies of cancer and all these different important things. Their funds are frozen. Their work can't continue. So it kind of pressured the university to say, okay, and they capitulated. And he also sued. He's suing colleges. Unheard of. The president of the United States is suing universities, saying that they are violating the civil rights acts, that they are being prejudicial against, let's say, Jews on campus, that they are hooking up so-called minority groups like black and brown people. So he's taken the laws we fought for to help, us to protect our rights. He's inverting them and trying to make it seem like now we are the ones in violation. And so George Floyd is definitely part of it, but it's also his advisors are probably telling him, there's going to be a lot of these black people and these Latinos and all these people. They're not going to take too kindly to this. Expect a lot of repercussions, and this is their way of getting ahead, so that when people start raising up and speaking out and doing protests, they got this thing in place to start taking people off the streets. All of this, sending people to D.C., sending people to Memphis, all of these things are part of what they talked about in Project 2025, which a lot of us didn't pay attention to. I know Harlem Liberation School was telling people about this a year ago. These are the different things they're doing, and he's doing exactly what's in that document, brother. Exactly.
Now, do you think they're putting a National Guard in the streets in certain cities to try to, prevent people from even starting any kind of a demonstration, protest, or something like that? Because all they have to do, if somebody sparks something, then the National Guard will come in and will be telling a whole nother story. Do you think this is related to them putting the National Guard in the street, trying to discourage people from demonstrating?
Well, we did a video not too long ago talking about raising the question: is the United States heading in the direction of fascism? And some of the key features of a fascist state is that it suppresses your right to protest. It does a us versus them thing. It punishes people who dissent with the government, and it starts attacking media outlets, independent media outlets, and individuals who are known for voicing dissent. Right? So the things that many of you are watching are all related to this. Jimmy Kimmel getting suspended. It's all related to that.
Yeah.
Right? All of this goes back to that. And so what we're looking at are features of a fascist state. And fascism is defined by extreme nationalism. So they're going to do all types of evil deeds to citizens who are just saying, I don't like this, it's not right. And they're going to justify that evil deed under the rubric of for our nation. They're taking nationalism and perverting it and making it almost wicked. No, not almost, making it wicked. Everything sinister is done in the name of preserving the nation. If you don't, Trump is on record as saying People who are fighting for this nation cannot break the law. Does that tell you? That's a straight fascist. That means you can do whatever you want if you're saying you're doing it for our nation. That's
Mm.
why in this memo, Brother Ra, he's very keen to say anti-American sentiment,
Right.
anti-Christian critiques, because he's trying to make this argument that this is what makes us as a nation who we are. I guess no one told this president that this nation is made up of mostly people of black people and people of color. And so and that if you're going to attack immigrants, you better start with your family members,
Okay.
right? He has a wife. Some of his family came here under weird pretenses. So it's very interesting. The whole argument that they have is illogical and it's irrational, and anybody can just completely obliterate the logic. However, this ain't about logic. This is about one's ability to enforce what they believe in. That's what he's doing by nationalizing the National Guard to these cities. That's about creating fear. That's the other thing. Fascist governments use fear so that people don't even want to speak up. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what that's about. Messing with people in DC and in Memphis and all this. It's like, man, I don't want no parts of that. Kind of like when slave owners amputated the foot of a brother or sister that tried to run away and they caught him and did it in public so that the other enslaved Africans would say, I don't want to go through that.
Yeah. So, what I think this is interesting. The early warning signs of fascism. One of them is powerful and continuing nationalism. That really means white nationalism in this case. Number two is disdain for human rights. And number three alludes to something that you just mentioned, identification of enemies as a unifying cause. What are they saying? The immigrants are coming across the border. They're invading our country. Black people are out of control. So we heard a while back FBI create this bogus Black identity extremist designation in light of the fact that you will never hear in white-owned media the expression white domestic terrorists, despite the fact that a lot of these white supremacist militia groups terrorize black people every day. You know, despite the fact that a lot of these white militia groups are involved in police killings. They kill more police than black people ever will. But you never hear the expression white domestic terrorists. You know, they're engaged in these mass shootings. We saw white people have a meltdown on January the 6th. You never heard the expression white domestic terrorists. So is this kind of leading off of this FBI designation of Black identity extremists? You think that has something to do with this?
I think it's a continuation and an escalation of what they were talking about, because that came out, but nobody moved on it. He's actually saying, we're going to start moving on these things and we're going to start. And he's very publicly saying, I don't like this commentator. I don't like this talk show host. I think they're anti-American. I think they should go. What president? I mean, they were racist, but they at least had a sense of saying, like, I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. He just comes out and boom, you know. And I think people should really take it seriously, because the ramifications are. This goes back to a book I read really young. I think it was called The Choice. I think the brother's name was Samuel Yette, Yette, and he was talking about concentration camps and all these things they were trying to do. Look at your thumbprint and identify who's a criminal and all these crazy stuff that fascist regimes do. So if you look at in Nazi Germany, they was big on eugenics, and guess who they learned it from? The United States.
That's right.
Right. So eugenics, this idea we're going to try to determine, you know, who's a criminal, who's a sexual deviant, all this stuff. It all ties into that. So this goes, I want people watching to understand it looks a little new. The way he's doing it is crass for sure. Some would say ignorant for sure, but it is really nothing new. It harkens back to a long time ago. This is just another attempt to stigmatize certain groups of people who irritate him, who he has no love for and wants to eliminate one way or the other.
Yeah, another of early warning sign of fascism is obsession with national security. Isn't that always the thing? There's some national threat. Like they said, the Black Panther Party was the greatest threat to national security. That's always the thing that draws people in. And
Yeah,
you have
that's
some of
that.
these. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say you have some of these people that vote on, like one of these single issue voters that vote on this idea of the immigrants are coming or we have to do something to defend the nation. It's always an obsession with national security. So just putting that out there. What are your thoughts on this idea of obsession with national security?
Yeah, that's what I referred to when I said that one of the things of the features of fascism is that it's this thing of being a patriot, protecting the nation, and that comes in a lot of forms. Strangely enough, this is why more than ever, Black people, we have to be critical thinkers. We have to know how to see, recognize propaganda, and know what is exaggerated and what is actual facts. Because when you do the study, you realize, you know, most Black people are weren't the recipients of so-called welfare benefits. More white people were, but the way they frame it, I remember growing up and they called it the welfare queens, referring to sisters that were receiving benefits. And then, and even if we were the largest recipient of food stamps and Medicaid and all these things, guess what? You ain't paid us no damn reparations. That's the least you could do. So
Right.
either way you slice that, it's a moot point. But yeah, bro, they always gonna refer back. We doing this for the nation. What did Germany say when they were persecuting uh, the people who refer to themselves as Jews at that time? They said we're doing it for the nation. That's the other thing. Fascist governments scapegoat people. They blame all their problems on groups. So the immigrants are coming, they taking jobs. They're lowering the safety in our neighborhoods, right? And we've all heard that this was Black people. They said it about Native Americans. They said it about uh, um, 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 continental Africans. They said it about Asian people. So this is not new. It's just playing out in different ways for the 21st century under this particular administration.
Yeah, you talked about concentration camps. At least you touched on that. Should we consider Alligator Alcatraz a concentration camp?
I don't know, but I tell you this: when land and real estate is scarce and people have a need, they will take things that will form. For instance, here in Harlem, there's a public school. There's a public school two blocks away from me. A lot of my friends went to that. They made apartments,
Wow.
so it's no longer a public school. It's the same infrastructure, high ceilings, big windows, but it's an apartment complex, and it has a boys and girls club in it. There's one down on what's that, 7th Avenue, St. Nicholas, that's like that. So the point here is people will take existing property if real estate is scarce and they'll use it for whatever their pressing need is. So concentration camps, it could be a school today and concentration camp tomorrow. It
Mm.
could be a prison today or a warehouse where people are making goods, and it could be a concentration camp tomorrow. Absolutely.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to what you were saying about turning a school into an apartment complex, we're seeing now, I guess, with the advent of the internet and people buying things online, you see malls are actually closing and going out of business. And, the developers are now making apartments out of malls, apartment like buildings out of malls. And people kind of live in these apartments with no windows because, in the mall, the stores have no window, right?
Mhm.
So people are living in malls with no windows. So that is an example of people like repurposing a property for whatever the reason is.
That's
So
right.
now, in addition to the memorandum that you talked about on Harlem Liberation School, again, we're encouraging everyone to go to Harlem Liberation School. Here on the Fact Project, we like to talk about solutions. So, what do you think are some of the solutions, to push back against memorandums like this one and whatever else is forthcoming?
Well, certainly the things that always have worked for our people have been community grassroots organizing, building independent Black institutions and organizations, radical journalism and radical scholarship, and things of that nature, we need to, everybody who has a podcast, a vlog, a pod, whatever you want to call it, on social media, needs to be alerting people to this memo, but not just sharing it. This happens a lot on Facebook. People share it with no commentary and that's it, and they leave it to people's own devices. We when we talk about this, we should let people know this is a direct attack on our right and ability to voice dissent with the government, to be critical of the government, which is, by the way, covered in the First Amendment. So this is a First Amendment issue. If people want to frame it in a legal way, you could go to civil rights organizations that fight for civil liberties to give you more background on it. But we need to let people know this is an attack on our First Amendment rights, our ability to say that we disagree with this and we don't want this, right? That's one of the first things to go. That's always the first thing to go when people are moving in the direction of a dictatorship, of a fascist government. So this should raise everyone's eyebrows. Like, for instance, we understand that it's illegal to damage property, take life, yada, yada, yada. When did it become illegal to say, I disagree with this aspect of Christianity, or I don't like this aspect of American life, or I don't like capitalism? When did that become illegal? See, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to make that association. And then once he can do that, if no one says anything and challenges it, now he can start saying, oh, you praising Assata Shakur, you coming to jail. You talking about capitalism is savage and vicious, you going to jail. Right? You talking about white supremacy is wrong, you going to jail. And that we can't have. So people have to educate themselves on the issue. They should start by reading the actual memo. Don't trust me. Don't believe what I'm saying. Go read the memo and you'll see. Go see our video if you want to know more, but read the memo and you should really pull our people's coat on this is what's going on, and then we should organize against it. And also, Brother Ra, I'm not one to back down from political fights, but we should also know how to move with discernment and wisdom. We might want to be attentive to our language. We might want to, in the video, I say this to people. Remember the first word of the Underground Railroad. So people who are sharp know what that means, what I'm saying to them. Certain things are not to be discussed in public forums because more and more they're going to be surveilling, they're going to be reviewing these YouTube channels, fam. I'm telling you, that's pretty much what they said. So I'm not saying to back down from the fight. I'm not trying to punkify our nation of people, but I am saying move with discernment and wisdom.
You mentioned the Constitution and First Amendment right and the right to dissent and so forth and so on. With everything that we see going on right now, we still going by the Constitution? Because it seems like all bets are off the table right now.
Well, Malcolm said it in not verbatim, but he basically said it is your constitutional right to bear arms. And if you don't believe in the Constitution, that's just a white piece of paper, it's your God-given right to bear arms. And if you don't believe in God and you're atheist or agnostic, it's your human right to bear arms. So whichever way people want to characterize it, it's all good. I'm just saying that to say that we have a precedent legally on which to challenge that and fight it. But whether you draw from the Constitution or you say God gave me the right to voice my dissent, or you say I don't believe in God, but I have the right, whichever way you characterize it, whichever way makes sense to you. The point here is, to challenge it. Don't sit on this like we did with that Project 2025. I remember having debates with elders, man, and we lived through Reagan. He was racist. Right. Racist ain't nothing new. And I was like, yo, this guy has the majority. He's going to have the majority in the House and Senate. And he's going to have the ability, he's going to have people who are afraid to challenge him because he's punitive. Dictators will punish you if you didn't vote for them. They'll take away money from you if you don't do what they say. That's what he's doing with the colleges. So Reagan didn't have a perfect alignment of all those forces. And what Reagan had was black people like us all up in that, protesting, going hard body back in the 80s. That don't exist today. So the climate is perfect for Donald Trump to get away with these things. People didn't listen to us. We told them, nah, don't compare him to Reagan. He's going to have a situation Reagan didn't have. And there was no black president yet either when Reagan was. So there's a backlash against Obama. It's a lot of white people feeling not only did the South lose the Civil War, but now we got this, you know what, as the president. So there's a lot of white vitriol going on, family. And Trump is riding that wave. So I just say it's very important when people are telling us these things, we better take them very seriously. Don't go into paranoid mode and get frazzled, but be like, word, let me go research that. And once you know it, spread it. And once you spread it, organize around it. And come up, we're all intelligent here. Come up with your own ways of dealing with it. But we cannot just sit down and ignore it. I can tell you that.
Yeah, so you make an excellent point. A lot of this is the MAGA movement is a backlash to America not only having a black president, but a black vice president under Joe Biden. We can't forget that. So now you're saying a lot of our people, when you try to alert them, they might write you off as an alarmist and they trivialize it. Do you think they trivialize it because they think, it can't happen here, or that's something that might have occurred in the history somewhere? Like, why do people trivialize it? Are they misguided? Are they small-minded? Why they trivialize it the way they do?
I think, man, a lot of it goes back to our lack of knowledge. You know, when paranoia is kind of like when you have an irrational fear that something or someone, some boogeyman is trying to do something to you. But if I'm sitting here at this podcast and somebody comes and has a gun to my head like this, that my reaction isn't paranoia. I'm reacting to a very real threat. But let's say you're disconnected from your history. You have no historical memory. To you, you don't know that we're talking about the descendants of a people who snatched people from their motherland family and justified it, brought them to another land where they sexually abused men and women. Nobody talks about that. Men and women. Displaced children from their families, treated us like property, hunted down Harriet Tubman, put a bounty on her head because she was a thief. What do you mean thief, Ajay? She was seen as stealing property from white folk, right? These are the descendants of the people that fought a whole war. That, let's say, I'm not down with, I'm leaving America. Listen to me. States that left the Union of the United States and formed their own government with their own military and their own currency because they refused to acknowledge black people as being human beings because they wanted to keep enslavement. These are the descendants of the people that was knowing that black men in Tuskegee had syphilis, telling them, oh, be in our program, we want to study, we're going to help you, knew they had syphilis and didn't treat them even once they found that penicillin was the cure. They let them die, right? In syphilis, you get crippled, you go insane, They let them die, right? I can keep going. This is the country, the descendants, where the people doing medical experiments on us. There's a whole book. Read Medical Apartheid. There's books on this stuff, right? So once you know that, you should not, when somebody says, yo, they're going to do A, B, and C, you should be able to make that connection quickly because you should know, well, they did it then. So what would stop them from doing it now, especially since we had the black president, the black vice president, all these black millionaires, black billionaires. You're gonna see them attacking black millionaires and billionaires. Don't we see that? Not saying some of them don't deserve to be critiqued, like maybe Diddy and different people, but you're gonna see Cosby. You're gonna see them going after black people who doing it. That's partly psychological. So they're like, damn, they're attacking our so-called best and brightest. You're going to see it more and more. You're going to see more racial attacks, not from just police, but from white vigilantes, white citizens who are not in law enforcement, who we saw it in the 80s with Michael Griffin, Eleanor Bumpers. You're going to see all of that resurging. This is predicted. I could say this like I could say the sun is hot because I know the history. So if you know the history, you can see patterns, right? And
Yeah.
so what we're talking about are some of the patterns that I'm kind of referring to right now. But that's
Yeah.
why they don't believe, Brother Rod. They don't know the history.
That's right. That's right.
When I hear that some white dude went and shot up a school, I'm like, wow, that's savage. That's terrible. But I know because there was a white man that shot up University of Houston, and that's what I think it was Spike Lee and no, who did Higher Learning was based on that
Okay.
movie Higher Learning, right?
Yeah.
So I
For
know the history. Yeah, this ain't new. White people been doing that for a minute,
right.
right?
Right.
So that's the thing. If people don't know the history, they think, oh man, you one of these people just trying to get people scared, man. Get out of here with that. So
Yeah.
it just lets me know we got to do a better job of educating our people.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of our people are ignorant to history, culture, and struggle. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm seeing some comments in the chat. I want everyone to know I am not caping for the Democratic Party. I am nonpartisan. And and I'm independent. When I say independent, I don't mean like Bernie Sanders and those kind of independent people. I mean I am nonpartisan, so I'm not here caping for the Democratic Party. So
Nor am I. That's right.
right. So I want to make that clear. Not only am I not a Democrat or Republican, I also myself am not a Christian. Now, Brother Agyei, we see Christianity or religion being mixed with white nationalism, and mixing religion with government is another facet of fascism. Is that what we're seeing right now?
Yes, and it's another violation of the First Amendment. Right? You're not supposed to, your freedom of speech, your freedom to petition the government to have a redress of your grievances, your freedom to serve worship whatever religion you want, is are all there for a reason, right? Okay. Now, the thing with religion, this is one of the silly things. This is what I mean by white supremacy is very irrational. So they say that, therefore, Christian nationalism, white Christian nationalism. But I want to know where in the Bible does Jesus talk about hating on people who are different than you? In fact, all the teachings, he talks about the Good Samaritan. That whole story is all about, at the end of the day, the person who was supposed to have looked out for this guy who got robbed and left on the road, who was his kin, walked by him. But a person who's from a rival part of town took care of him. And he's trying to teach people, don't get too caught up in difference like that. Wrong is wrong and right is right. But nowhere do I see anywhere in that book them talking about hating on people, doing harm to people particularly who haven't violated you. So it's weird that they're warmongers. They're going to countries, bombing them, taking their mineral resources, putting up puppet governments in other places so they could have remote control leadership and ownership of different African and African descendant nations and people. And they're quoting, and they say they're Christian. I'm trying to figure out what book are they going by. That's all I want to know. There's nothing in there that comes from a Christian point of view. And this is coming from a brother that grew up in the Christian Baptist church, was all involved in the church, and who disavows 98% of what it is represented to be. I disavow it because a lot of our people innocently cling to religion to have direction and hope and have guidance, and were taught by generations of parents and their parents and their parents, and they don't know that the people who taught them that did it to colonize them, and that the people who taught them that went to Kemet.
That's right.
And did not understand the allegories and the metaphors of the Immaculate Conception, of the first Holy Trinity. They didn't have the key to decode the allegories, so these numbskulls took it literally and taught all our people that man actually came up was killed, came back up, and not understand. No, 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 no. That is teaching you a higher spiritual truth, right? It's not meaning literally. So you're learning from people who didn't understand it themselves, and that's just the truth. Because
Yeah,
most black Christians are not out here hurting nobody. I want to be clear on that. They ain't caught. They ain't trying to hurt nobody. They just may be. They're misdirected. But guess what? We got black Muslims that are misdirected too, and black Hebrews and black agnostics. So they're not the only ones. But be clear. I would love to have. I don't even want to have a debate. I would love for one of them to give me a nice 45-minute presentation coming out of the Bible, which is supposed to be their source book of to justify all the things they're doing. I would love to see it.
yeah. People sort of try to make being a Christian synonymous with morality, and that for me is a
Mm-hmm.
joke.
Which is funny.
Right, which is
No
funny.
disrespect. No disrespect to my Christian brothers and sisters, but we're not talking about y'all. We're talking about the white so-called Christians in power. It is a joke, family.
Right.
It is
Not
a
only that,
joke.
they try to
Come
make
on.
Christianity synonymous with morality. The Ku Klux Klan is Christian. And they're not moral. So I just leave that there. And you mentioned this thing about immaculate conception. That was written on the wall of, or in the tomb rather, of Seti the First in Abydos in ancient Kemet, many thousands of years before the alleged birth of this fictional Jesus the Christ. I don't want to make this a discussion about religion, but Brother Agyei, in the time that we do have left, I want you to talk about some of the things you're doing, the ebooks, so we can go ahead and give out the website so people can check out the ebooks. What can you tell us about the latest series of ebooks on self empowerment?
Oh man, I'm really thank you for giving me that opportunity. I am seeing that our people we big on the politics, we big on the history, big on the culture. We really light when it comes to that character though, right? We're light when it comes to being our best selves. And we have to understand that organizations and movements and institutions are made up of individuals. So if we want communities to be better, institutions, organizations, movements, we have to make individual people better. That's what I'm on right now for our people. The ebook, the online store I have on PayHip is really designed to address trying to look at all the things that we struggle with. So I'm about to put up a new one on understanding and overcoming anxiety because we deal with this. Our kids are dealing with it, and so are our adults. So we got stuff on dealing with, people having panic attacks and they breaking down. They don't understand why. And then we got insensitive people in our community who making fun of them. Now, don't make fun of them. They got an issue, right? So what I'm trying to do, Brother Ra, that's my man, brother Kareem Bliss Johnson, Brooknon's general right there. Peace, salute, brother. What I'm trying to do, man, is be a good doctor. I'm trying to say, give a diagnosis based on actual facts, and then give a prescription. But I'm also trying to be a pharmacist. I'm in the back when you come in. I'm in the back, making that batch of medication to help us to be better. So we got stuff for black men, affirmations for black men, to get our minds right. We got something, if you feel stuck in life and you feel like, man, I can't be my highest self, what can I do? We got stuff that's dealing with a whole life philosophy. So we're not trying to be like other people. We're not being competitive. We move on our own pace. With our own interests, in pursuit of our own interests. This is it's like maybe 18 ebooks up there, man. And they got a whole 5-part series for Gen Z, our young folk, man, to get their character right. So that's really what we're trying to do, bro. We're trying to cover the bases, the basic stuff that our people deal with as individuals, because it's hard to have a black nation full of deeply insecure, highly competitive, people with anger issues, traumatized, never got healing, citizens, man. So at some point we got to talk about, as y'all fighting the white man. I'm not trying to fight the white man for the rest of my life. I can't speak to nobody else. I put that time in. Now I want to say, okay, how do we build the things we need So we're not just fighting him all day. Okay, where's our schools, laboratories, libraries, huh?
Right.
Universities. So I'm on that part of it now. I spent a lot of my earlier time fighting, and now I want to build. I want to make sure I leave this planet having built something. And so that's really what it's about for me, man. Trying to build something that we need, get our minds right so we can be self-governing and self-determining.
Yeah, now we mentioned Asada Shakur earlier. She said revolutionaries don't fall from the moon; they are created by, their circumstances and conditions. She also made a quote that inspired some of your ebooks about fixing yourself before you fix the system. Can you repeat that for us?
Yeah, she essentially, it's a wonderful quote, man. But she says, it's not enough to change the system, just to change the system. We have to change ourselves too. And of course, she's right. But in our community, if you come up and say, man, we got to be on time, man, we got to take advantage, man, we got to be at the meeting right and exact at our business meet. We can't be coming there talking all crazy and smelling funky and looking crazy. Then people say, oh man, you trying to be white? No, sir. I'm trying to be empowered. I'm trying to be successful, right? So we have to get away from this thing of everything that's good for us is white.
Mm.
That's another trick. I was coming up, I was a bibliophile reading very young due to my dad. And there were people who might look at that and say, oh, he one of them white kids. No, sir. You one of them white kids. Because what I'm doing is right in line with our history. Our people were voracious readers, learners, and teachers. But if you let your enemy tell you, right, he'll have you thinking right is wrong and wrong is right. So Assad is right and exact. Revolutionaries are made, they are sculpted, right, by their people, their culture, their community, the history and politics of their time. So that's right and exact. Franz Fanon said it differently. He said, each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover their mission and fulfill or betray it.
Yeah,
Right? So yeah, I'm trying to fulfill it, not betray it.
yeah. The great Dr. Joy DeGruy always talks about how Black people deal with untreated trauma, and as a result, we exhibit and exemplify unhealed behavior. So, those of us that have knowledge of self, whether you join an organization, you could be 5% Nation of Gods and Earth, you could be Nation of Islam, Sunni Muslim, Pan African, Black nationalist. If you join an organization and you still dealing with unhealed behavior, then you bring those unhealed behaviors into that organization with you. You'll bring the low self-esteem, you'll bring the insecurity, the ego, the jealousy, and so forth. And those are the things that will cause a lot of problems and disruptions in organizations. I'm sure you've seen a lot of organizations up close, and you've seen a lot of the dysfunction from the individuals in the organization because they are unhealed. So having said that, I want to direct everyone to payhip.com/Wukusu products. That was put in the chat. Payhip.com/Wukusu products. And Wukusu stands for Wake Up, Clean Up, Stand Up. It's spelled WUCUSU products. So payhip.com/Wukusu products. And yeah, go ahead and start getting those ebooks so you can get yourself right. A lot of self-help is written by a lot of experts that don't look like us. Chicken Soup for the Soul and all this kind of things that are written by people that don't look like us. go, go ahead and check
Yeah.
out. Yeah, right.
Yep.
Go ahead and
And
check
may
out.
I
Brother.
say this, Brother Raw?
Go ahead, yeah, by all means.
If you don't mind, I also want to say this. I'm putting myself out there. I'm pivoting at this point in my career. I'm going from the classroom teacher and the person that helped create an actual middle school 25 years ago. I'm moving in a different direction. Now I'm an empowerment coach. I am available for hire, you might say, to help you. I would rather work with groups. I'll give you a big discount, matter of fact, if you come with yourself and 5 other Africans. I'll give you a huge discount. And if it's enough people, you will be free in that. I'm trying to get groups of our people, groups at a time, to learn how to focus, avoid distractions, set and achieve your goals, complete your task in a timely fashion, know how to calm yourself and get centered, meditate, visualize, affirm, keep your mind out of toxic thoughts, and keep yourself from toxic people, right? So you might also say, I like the books, I like the Wukusu Empowerment YouTube channel, Brother Agyei, but I want to get coaching. If you go to those sites, you also find out how to do that because I am
Okay.
available to do that. Our people need help. And I don't want to be a person that's just on the side. I never wanted to be a person just on the sideline talking about it. I always wanted to be on the field doing something about it. I was a player at one time. If you get the analogy of the field, I was a football player at one time. Now I want to coach. I'm not going to be at every rally and every protest no more. I can't do that now, family, at this stage. But I want to teach and coach the people who are so that you can avoid a lot of mistakes and that you can have your mind right and move with power in this world.
Now, we don't have time for it, but brother Kareem Bliss Johnson in the chat just asked a bomb question. How does one heal behavior that one does not know is problematic? we don't have time to get into that, but maybe next time when we come
And you know
back.
what? But real quick, Brother Blitz, we spoken a little bit indirectly when we said, Brother Ross said, well, why don't people believe that this stuff is happening when you telling them about Project 2025 and America's becoming fascist? And I said, because they don't know the history. If they knew what America has done, this stuff you see is chicken noodle soup. If you could take a people, put them in chains, take them across the sea and enslave them and have sex with them, but you call them animals, you can do anything. But if you don't know the history, you think somebody's crazy. So it kind of speaks to what Blitz raised.
Nice. Yeah, shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to everyone that chimed in and joined us. I always appreciate that. Brother Agyei Tyehimba can be seen at Harlem Liberation School on YouTube. I'm saying it right this time. Harlem Liberation School on YouTube. And also make sure you go to payhip.com/Wukusu products. That website again is payhip.com/Wukusu products. Get those self-empowerment books. Get that self-empowerment. Be empowered. And be your higher self, as he said. Brother Agyei, I want to thank you for joining us as always, brother. It's always good to talk to you. Information you convey is always on point, is on time. And I'm seeing from the reaction in the chat that I'm not the only one that feels that way about your presentations here on the F.A.C.T Project. So I want to thank you once again for joining us again this month, brother.
Peace. Thank y'all, man. I'm fulfilling my divine assignment, family.
Yes,
I
sir.
feel good to know that it's being received well. Many thanks to you all that watch. And to Brother DJ Tiger, Brother Ra, everybody down with your team, thank you as well.
Yeah, super salute to DJ Tiger. And again, go to Harlem Liberation School on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Watch those videos. Like those videos. Check out your brother Agyei Tyehimba. Brother Agyei, stay safe, brother, and stay Pan-African.
You know it. Peace and Black Power.
Peace.